Hello, my name is Gregory Guzman, and today I am going to be talking about a forgotten topic. One that was very controversial during the 2020 presidential campaigns, and that now seems to have been forgotten by everyone, including the news networks. And that is whether the Supreme Court should be packed or if it shouldn't be packed and remain how it is right now. Now, this was going to be a problem only if Biden was elected. And now that he has, it seems to be up in the air and not really talked about. So right now I'm going to be talking about both sides of the matter and whether I think it should be changed or remain how it is. Now, as of today, there are 9 Supreme Court justices. Each of them are nominated by our president and then confirmed in the U.S. Senate. However, in the past 113 years of our Constitution, not a single time has Congress ever established the number of Supreme Court justices that there should be on the bench. Now, it's simply incomprehensible why Congress hasn't done something like this already, establishing the number of Supreme Court justices that there should be on the bench. Now, first, our country had 6 justices, but the number of justices have fluctuated throughout the history, especially in the early decades of our country. And now, ever since 1869, the number has remained at 9 justices in the highest court of the land. Now, during FDR's administration, he wanted to pack the court with members that would support his New Deal. Conservatives were blocking his New Deal agenda, painting him as a socialist and that his agenda was too progressive. So Roosevelt turned to the Supreme Court. His plan was to appoint a new justice for every current justice over the age of 70 that wouldn't retire, which would have raised the number to 15 instead of 9. However, the idea wasn't very popular, as it still isn't now, so he backed out. And throughout his tenure, he replaced many of those justices, so the number remained at 9, even at that time. But it leaves us with many questions. But first, I do want to say a few things. First, I want to say that the way Republicans hijacked Merrick Garland's confirmation in 2016, 8 months before the election, was a gross miscarriage of duty. There's no other way to put it. And there are two-faced agendas, such as quickly confirming Barrett to the Supreme Court less than 2 months before the election reinforces their hypocrisy, the party's hypocrisy. And also, Kavanaugh should have never been confirmed to the Supreme Court for obvious reasons. They must be held accountable for what they did. And here's something that not a lot of people know. McConnell, back in Obama's administration, also blocked over 200 nominations from President Obama for federal judges in courts around the country, which is why almost a third of the judges today in our district, circuit, and the Supreme Court consists of judges appointed by President Trump. McConnell stole those seats from Obama in a way that the Founding Fathers never, ever wanted to. And although McConnell isn't known for this, he is responsible for it, and he should be held accountable, as well as every other Republican that let these nominations go through. And look, I am saying these things not to be political, not to favor one over the other. I'm saying that these things should have happened because they were the right things to do, because they are what should have been done. Well, now I'm finished with that rant. Let's go back to the main question at hand, which is the size of the court. Firstly, and probably the most frightening one, is the politicization of our court. Do political affiliations affect case rulings? Well, the answer is not really. No matter who the court consists of, usually case rulings are voted unanimously, maybe 1- or 2. The only ones where it's very split are the controversial topics, the ones we usually hear about in the news with like DACA, ACA, Roe v. Wade. Because the difference between judges and politicians is that judges are appointed for life. That means they are able to carry out their duty more responsibly and in the right way. Now, the Founding Fathers probably did that intentionally, with that in mind, with that intention, for them to carry out their duty carefully, especially with something as big as our legal system, which is an institution bigger than any of us. Because justices often stick with their legal duty, such as when Justice Roberts voted in favor of the ACA, which was Obamacare, or when Justice Scalia voted in favor of supporting the right to burn the American flag, which is something that's the polar opposite of a conservative value. But it was protected underneath the First Amendment. So that's where you see that contrast and that difference between legal duty, what's legal, and what's a political belief. And they know how to draw that line, at least I believe so. So changing the number of justices isn't only unnecessary, but it's extremely, extremely dangerous. Because who's to say that once that line is crossed of appointing more justices, who's to say that the next administration won't do the same with no limit whatsoever, packing the court beyond what is recommended? Because when those numbers get high, I mean, it can get very dangerous for rulings, case rulings, especially with so much of a difference of political affiliations. Practically, it could be used as a political weapon. And I mean, justices get rotated constantly, and even if they don't, justices that during their tenure as a Supreme Court justice often change their mind and become swing votes, just like Justice Robert has become recently. Now, once again, I ask many of the teachers in my school, whether they are in the history department or very much involved in current events and politics, to help me contribute to this very video and to give me their thoughts and their opinions, their beliefs on this matter. Now, almost every single one of them agree that the number should remain at 9, all except one, saying that the number should grow a little more in order to represent the greater population of our current nation that is now very, very different than how it was in the 18th century when the Constitution was made. But that same teacher said that the appointing of justices should change from being appointed by the president, and that is where everyone agreed on, including me. That establishing a different way of appointing justices is not only logical, but strategically preferable. In order to really guarantee that our Supreme Court remains fair, to remain unbiased in its case rulings. Now, firstly, let me make this as clear as I can, that people should not, by any means, elect these judges. I mean, that'd be a nightmare. Can you imagine the campaigns, the ads for judgeship elections? It'd be a never-ending political war, and none of us want more of that. So instead, I think that the Attorney General's office should come up with a list, a very short list, of nominees for the Supreme Court when there's a vacancy, and then send that list to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court can choose a nominee, one of those nominees, and then send that nominee to the U.S. Senate for confirmation. That way, more people involved in the justice system that have dedicated their lives to that would play a bigger role in nominating people to the highest court of the land, the Attorney General's office, the Supreme Court, and the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. I mean, I don't think it can get more qualified than that. And lastly, I think that justices should have a term limit. I mean, hear me out. It won't be as small as most political offices. They would each serve 18 years on the bench, and each term should be staggered into every 2 years. There would be a vacancy every 2 years, where a new justice is appointed on one of the 9 seats. Therefore, each administration gets to nominate during their tenure, as well as ensuring that justices are constantly rotated. To put this in an image, you would have all 9, they would each serve 18, and then slowly they're all in 9. One of them gets vacant. When their turn ends, they get vacant, and then that one goes back to the back, and slowly it gets turned up every 2 years until it just keeps rotating, where the administration gets to nominate these new people. Now, all of this should be made into an amendment by Congress, because it's what should be done. But it would be hard to make that happen. Probably impossible, but it's the right thing to do. Before a president in the future tries to take advantage of this dynamic, of this system of appointing court justices. But for now, I think we're okay. Not perfect, but we're far from it. But good enough not to risk changing that. So in the end, I think we'll be okay. We should not change the number of justices, just the dynamic, the way in which we appoint them, and how they should serve their term. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm Gregor Guzman. Take care.